Wait, you guys haven't heard? It's the Very Real Fantasy Football Show!
What is up? Fantasy football for real. Week 12. Eric Pettigoat, no Eric Kranz, no Big Dan. We couldn't meet up this week, and because we are all in our mid-40s, I also couldn't figure out how to get the technology to work. I'll take the blame for that. I can't throw those guys under the bus. But I did want to get something out because next week might be tricky too with it being Thanksgiving. And I wanted to get something out this week so that everybody was ready for week 12. If you do listen to us, I didn't want you to miss us. So this is a huge week, man. There are 6 buys, 6 teams on a bye, a lot of fantasy players not playing football this week. So we're going to kind of run through some stuff. It'll be a shorter show than usual because I won't have Big Dan cracking jokes or Eric, trying to get some words in and being awesome. Eric's awesome. And then me just trying to steer the ship. You know how it is. And dogs and kids. And I have dogs. And regardless, let's get to this because there's a lot going on. The 6 teams on a bye. Atlanta, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and the New York Jets. So you may be scrambling to pick some players up, and if that's the case, I do have a few waiver wire options to go out there and check and see if they're out there on your waiver wire. You can scoop them up. They might be worth a play. Now, the Thursday night game, this is not going to be out in time for, and that's Steelers-Browns. So if Russ is out there on your waiver wire, hopefully you went and scooped him up if you needed a QB. He had a bad week last week, so a lot of owners might have dropped him. But he's been really, really good, and I think he's going to have a good night tonight. So hopefully you have him on your team and you're not listening to this like, shit, I should have picked him up. Yep, nope. If you did, good. If you didn't, grab one of these other guys. If Tua's out there, scoop him up. Drake Mays looked really good. And get this, Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito getting the start for the New York Football Giants. No more Danny Dimes. Big Dan's going to be sad about that. He loves him some Danny Dimes. But the business decision to put Daniel Jones on the bench, and also because he sucks really bad. And it's time to move on. Tommy DeVito had a few nice games last season when he got to start, and he didn't have near the offensive firepower that they do now. He's got Malik Neighbors out there. He's got a healthy Wandale. Tyrone Tracy in the backfield. Rookie running back has looked really, really good. So Tommy DeVito, I'm interested in this week. And the matchup, give me a second. I got nobody to kill time. The matchup I feel like is not too bad. At home against the Bucks. Hey, bud, what's up? Just doing a little fantasy football podcast by myself because I couldn't figure out how to link up with my friends. My son Jace just walked in. He's a good kid. Handsome little devil. All right. Running backs. If Raheem Mostert's out there, he hasn't done anything, but still he might be all right. Roschon Johnson has found the end zone for the Bears a lot. They seem to give it to him in the goal line quite a bit. Power back. And check this out. For the Raiders, Zamir White hasn't practiced. Alexander Madison hasn't practiced. Amir Abdullah. The ghost of Amir Abdullah is out there in like 100% of leagues and will be the feature back if neither of those guys play. So just keep an eye on it. I mean, he's not going to be great or anything. The Raiders are at home against the Broncos. The Broncos are really good defensively, especially. But still, if you need a running back, 6 teams on bye, Amir Abdullah, I guarantee you, is out there. For receivers, speaking of the Broncos, Devon Vele, rookie receiver. He's 26. He's like damn near our age, and he's a rookie, but he's actually been pretty good. And Bo Nix has been incredible. So if he's out there and you need a receiver, not bad. Also, look for Alec Pierce in Indy, Roma Dunze in Chicago, and Ricky Pearsall in San Fran. He coming off of a 0-point outing last week, and a lot of people would have dropped him, but still, he's going to be part of that game plan, and they do seem to look for him in the red zone. Now for tight ends, Jake Ferguson out for Dallas. Luke Schoonmaker should be getting the start. Not that he's going to be good, but he is going to be a starting tight end, and he's probably available. And from KC, maybe check out Noah Brown. Obviously, Travis Kelce's the guy, but Noah Brown does catch a few passes every week and on occasion finds the end zone, I think, unless I'm wrong. But I scooped him up in a league. I feel like he's scored before. Maybe he hasn't. I don't know, man. I'm winging it, and I don't have anybody here to correct me. All right, take a quick look at last week. And just kind of previously, Matt Stafford, 10 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So I wanted to play a quick game of Stafford or with my friends. So Matt Stafford or Bo Nix. Oh, yeah, it's just me. Never mind. I'm going to go Bo Nix. Matt Stafford's at home against Philly. But he has been on fire lately, man. 10 touchdowns the last 4 games. He's got his weapons back, so he's good. But Bo Nix is the number 6 fantasy receiver right now. Rookie QB Bo Nix. And a lot of people, I guess, maybe don't realize that or understand that. But he has been really, really good lately. So if Bo Nix is out there for some reason and you need a QB, maybe you're starting Joe Burrow, maybe you're starting Josh Allen, and Bo Nix is out there, consider yourself lucky. Go scoop him up. The guy's been on fire lately, and it's a good matchup for him. So Bo Nix, number 6 fantasy QB on the season, and he's available in a lot of leagues. Anthony Richardson, hey, that's my phone. Anthony Richardson had a good week last week when he came in after the Joe Flacco experiment didn't work. He went 20 of 30, threw for a touchdown, ran 2 more of them in 0 interceptions, which is really good for Anthony Richardson. And that should make Big Dan happy too. So there you go, buddy. You got your precious Anthony Richardson back. Juwan Johnson, and this makes me sad that I couldn't do a show with the fellas because Dan and I have been arguing over Juwan Johnson all season. 10 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. That's 25.1 fantasy points last week. Juwan Johnson is easily the Niners' number 1 receiver. Obviously, Ayuk's out. Kittle hasn't played in a while, but regardless of all of that, Juwan Jennings. Sorry, man. I'm trying to get through this. Juwan Johnson's tight end for the Saints. This is the shittiest episode we've ever done. Juwan Jennings is the number 1 receiver for the Niners. 10 for 91 and a touchdown last week. The dude's been really, really good all season. So I've got him in my lineup. Makes sense to just have him out there. And for our buddy Crayons, Jameson Williams apparently is still taking the performance-enhancing drugs. He's just found a better way to mask it because last week, 4 for 124 and a touchdown, 22.6 fantasy points. I said it was a fluke at the beginning of the season. I felt I was proven right when he tested positive for performance enhancers, but he came back and he had a big game. So congrats, Eric. Jackson Smith and Jigba for Seattle, 21.8 points last week, 10 catches for 110 yards. I think he actually ran the ball a little bit too. But every single week, Big Dan sends out a text, do I start JSN? And every single week, I'm like, nah. And last week, I was like, you should probably just do it, even though I'm going to tell you no because DK's back. Well, DK was back. JSN still went 10 catches for 110. I think you can just plug this guy in every week. All right. So that is my recap. Let's just kind of go through these games a little bit, and then we'll get out of here because I got shit to do. All right. Thursday night game is happening well before I'm going to get this episode out, so hopefully you started players that were good. Chiefs at Panthers. Chiefs caught their first L last week. I couldn't have been happier. For some reason, I hate the Chiefs. I don't know, but now they're at the Panthers. They're probably going to beat the absolute hell out of the Panthers. Isaiah Pacheco might be coming back. He's been practicing in limited fashion. He's still IR designated to return as of now, but he could be active for Sunday. And if that's the case, I don't know what's going to happen with that backfield because Kareem Hunt has been really good, and I don't think he's just going to be relegated to a straight-up backup role. It's going to be, I feel like, some sort of a mix, some sort of a split. And for me, that makes starting either guy kind of tough. Now, if you have to, you have to. A lot of teams on bye. But on the other side of the field, Chuba Hubbard has been super good for the Panthers. But Jonathan Brooks is going to be back this week. or he's going to make his debut this week, rookie running back. So I assume he's going to be on the field some. You might be tempted to get him in your lineup, but don't do it. They're going to ease him back in, I'm pretty sure. But I'm more focused on the Kansas City side of the football. I think Chuba's a perfectly fine start, but that's a tough matchup. But just straight up volume, he's going to be fine. For the Chiefs, I think Kareem Hunt will get the majority of the touches, but I mean, if Pacheco's back, he is going to be involved. So I'm a little worried to start either one of them. I have a feeling it'll be Kareem Hunt, around the goal line. So if you're looking for touchdowns, that might be the way to go. The Vikings go on the road to take on the Bears. The Bears are somehow 4-6, but man, do they feel so much worse. Sam Darnold hasn't been great lately for Minnesota, but I think, you still have to consider rolling him out there unless you have a better option. And don't worry about Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones, there's absolutely no injury designation for the first time, I think, since 2019. So Aaron Jones, totally fine. Get him out there. It should be good. The Bears have a tough defense, but the Vikings, I feel like you're going to score some points. Watch the weather, though. It might be kind of shitty this weekend in Chicago. For the Bears, I mentioned Roma Dunze earlier. Decent dart throw. You're starting DJ Moore, even though that hasn't been great. You're starting DeAndre Swift, but you don't feel as good about that as you did a few weeks ago. And Keenan Allen, I looked up a stat just to bring, in case you still have him for some reason on your bench. He has one double-digit game all season in PPR, and that was back in week 6. Keenan Allen has not panned out. This has not worked. I thought this was going to be a good fit for him in Chicago. It's a rookie QB and a veteran receiver, and usually that goes really well together. It has been horrible. One double-digit game all season, and it hasn't been for a while. So forget starting him. If you have him on your roster, I think he's safe to drop if there's somebody you want on the waiver wire. All right. Titans at Texans. Westbrook-Akine, this is so weird, but he's actually been pretty good. The Titans are 2-8. They're trash. Westbrook-Akine might be on your waiver wire, so if you need somebody, not a bad spot start. Now, the Texans are a tough team. They're 7-4. Pretty good defense, but still somebody has to catch the ball, and it's been Westbrook-Akine. For the Texans, C.J. Stroud, I still don't think you can start. It's good that he has Nico back. I've got no problem putting Nico in, but Joe Mixon's the superstar here. The guy's having an amazing season, and he's even older than Devon Vele, which is incredible, only by 2 years, which is that's a real thing. He's like 28. Vele's 26. He's a rookie. Mixon's in the twilight of his career. He's 2 years older. Running backs. Lions at Colts. Lions are the best team in the NFL, and their offense is ridiculous. And their defense, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, and it's like you would never know it. You saw what happened to the Niners last week when Bosa went out. That defense could not get any pressure at all on Geno Smith, and he just walked into the end zone for a game-winning touchdown. The Lions lose Hutchinson, and it doesn't even matter. The defense is still ridiculous. The offense is awesome. They go on the road to take on the Colts. Anthony Richardson and the Colts. That should be a beatdown. Fantasy-wise, start every line you have. I don't know. I don't think Laporta's going to be back yet, but he's been the only real bust on this offense all season. And for the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, I guess, but nobody else. All right, Pats at Dolphins, 3-8 at 4-6. I don't like it. Ramondre fine. Drake May if you need to. And for the Dolphins, Tua's not a bad start, I don't think. Tyreek's been good, and Waddle's still trash. But, Achane. So there you go. You might be tempted to get Jonnu Smith in because he had a monster game last week at tight end, but that was kind of an exception. If you look at what he's done all season, it hasn't been much. So, start him if you need to. If you have to start tight ends and you don't have nobody else, fine. But, last week isn't this week. All right, Bucks at Giants. Mike Evans comes back for the Bucks. That's great news for Baker. Good news for people who have Mike Evans. And hopefully his hamstrings hold up. He is old. But, if you got him, get him in the lineup. And, Kate Otten, I think, will still be fine. running backs I think will both be mediocre but serviceable. And as far as the Giants go, and I like Neighbors, I like Wandale, and Tyrone Tracy I think should still be good. Cowboys at Commanders. I almost feel bad for the Cowboys, except I don't because it's Dallas. Either way, Rico Dowdle, I think, has a really good matchup. I mean, the Commanders are like 26 in the league against opposing running backs in fantasy. And so I think Dowdle might have a decent game. I mean, you can't bench CeeDee Lamb if you have him, but it's just, man, what a sad year. What a sad year for them. As far as the Commanders go, dude, you can start both running backs. You can start Eckler and you can start Brian Robinson. And, obviously you got McLaurin out there and Jaden Daniels. So I don't need to tell you too much there. Broncos at the Raiders. Talked about Bo Nix earlier. Kid's really, really good. And this is a nice matchup. I think he's going to have another big game. And, I mean, he's got to throw the ball to somebody. There hasn't been anybody who's really emerged as a legit number one. But, I mean, pick a target. Somebody will be good. Javonte Williams, after 2 weeks ago, wasn't even supposed to be the starter. They were going to, give it to the young guy. I'm trying to remember his name. It's something weird, and I'm just trying to fly through this. But Estime, right? Audric Estime. Yeah, there it is. But then Javonte had a huge week last week, and Estime barely got used. So, I don't know, man. Roll the dice. They still have Jaleel McLaughlin floating around back there, too. I've got Javonte, and I'm starting him because I have to because my team sucks. But it worked out for me last week. Somehow I've won 3 in a row. I sold off like 90% of my starting lineup in this Dynasty League so I could rebuild, and I've peeled off 3 straight wins, and I'm probably going to make the playoffs and be pissed that I, for some reason, am good now. Javonte, it's partly his fault. The Raiders are trash, so no. Just don't. Don't do it unless you need to start a running back and don't have anybody else. I mean, obviously Brock Bowers, you can put him in, but oof, man, they're so bad. 2-8. Niners at the Packers. I almost don't want to talk about this game because I'm so pissed at the Niners because it's just, I don't know, something's wrong. I don't think Bosa's going to play. I mean, Juwan Jennings, not Juwan Johnson, would be just fine. Brock Purdy, though, I think is out with like a shoulder injury, so keep an eye on that. I haven't seen anything saying he's not going to play, but I think he's been super limited in practice, and a shoulder injury for a QB is problematic. I mean, McCaffrey's back, but he hasn't had a McCaffrey game, and I don't know if this is going to be it at Green Bay either. Either way, you're starting him. And keep an eye on Kittle. I haven't seen if he's going to be back this week or not yet, but he's dinged up as well. And that is the story of the Niners season. As far as the Packers go, Jordan Love, fine. Josh Jacobs, sure. And, after... It's so hard to pick between their wide receivers every week. For some reason, they've got Christian Watson on the Flea Flicker site projected to get like 10.6, and I don't know how you can ever project that with him. It's so like hit or miss with these guys. I feel like they should be projected for 7 every week. But either way, start him if you have to. Jaden Reed, to me, is the only, surefire start for the right wide receivers. All right, let me see here. Cardinals at Seahawks. There's nobody, I don't think, on the fringe, should I or should I not? Everybody that you think you should start. And JSN is now a part of that for Seattle. So, we can move on. Eagles at Rams. It's a tough matchup for Stafford, man, but I don't think he's going to be too bad. I think he'll still be a startable, top 10 fantasy QB this week, but he's coming off of a huge game. He's not going to be in the top 5 because the Eagles' defense is legit. They are at home. He does have his weapons, and his weapons are potent. So you're still starting Cooper. You're still starting Puka. And, Kyron Williams had kind of a bad week last week, but he'll be fine. You're still getting him out there. And for Philadelphia, Devonta Smith hasn't practiced yet. He didn't practice today. He's had 2 bad games in a row, single digits. I mean, you probably need to look elsewhere. I mean, there's a good chance he just gets ruled out. If he's not practicing today, that's not a good sign. But even if for some reason he gives it a go Sunday night, you might want to look elsewhere. I think I am. Let me see where they have him. Fantasy Pros has him at number 21, just ahead of Deebo Samuel. I would start Deebo. They've got him 2 spots ahead of Jaden Reed. I would start Jaden Reed. They've got him 3 spots ahead of Calvin Ridley. Oh, you know how bad I hate Calvin Ridley. All right, then Jacoby Myers, DeAndre Hopkins, Jamison Williams. I would start Jamison Williams for sure over Devonta this week. Yeah, I just keep an eye on that. He's been bad, and he's dinged up, and he's not practicing. So, and it's a hamstring too. You know how that is for receivers. All right. Next game, Monday night game. Ravens at Chargers. This will be good, man. Ravens are 7-4. Chargers are 7-3. Nobody's really talking about the Chargers, but they're actually really good this year. They got J.K. Dobbins, who's having a really nice year, and their defense is sick. So, Ravens have lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost. They lost to a team who only kicked field goals last week, literally 6 field goals. They lost to 6 field goals and 0 touchdowns last week. By the way, speaking of field goals, I looked this up because you guys know that I hate kickers and I don't want them in fantasy. However, they are in a lot of fantasy leagues, and I'm in some leagues that have kickers, and every year it never fails. I'm like, don't pick a kicker until the last round because you can get a top 10 kicker in the very last round of the draft. You can't do that with any other position. And the argument is, well, if I pick the number 1 kicker before anybody else does, then I've got an advantage at kicker while you're picking guys to go on your bench. Okay, fine. So you pick Justin Tucker. Nice work. He's like the number 9 kicker this year. And Boswell from Pittsburgh, who just beat Baltimore last week by himself, I think was the number 20 kicker preseason rankings, and I'm pretty sure he's like the number 1 kicker in fantasy right now. So kickers are dumb. Get them out of your league, but if they are in your league, don't burn a pick on them where you could like pick a guy you could actually play because it's a crapshoot, man. Justin Tucker is barely cracking the top 10 in fantasy kickers this year, and you probably picked him in the 8th or 9th round like a moron. So let that be a lesson to you, and you deserve everything you get. But as far as the Ravens go, I mean, it's Zay Fly. I mean, I'm going to say, yeah, hey, man, this is a week, you should probably start Derrick Henry. Of course you're starting Derrick Henry. Like, the only real questions are like Mark Andrews or not. And even that, yeah, you probably are because it's tight ends and they all suck and there are 6 teams on bye, so you probably have to. But the Chargers, I like Quentin Johnston and I like Ladd McConkey and I like J.K. And it's a tough matchup, but all these guys are producing and they're at home. So I'm excited to see that game. Start those guys, but maybe temper your expectations. These are 2 good defenses, so it might not be a huge fantasy game, but what other choice do you have? It's a short week, not a lot of guys playing, and not a great podcast, but I wanted to get something out there. I apologize for it being so awful and terrible, but at least it's something, and it's out, and then next week it might be bad again, because I don't know if I'm going to have time to meet up with the homies, but we'll see. All right, that's it. I'm getting out of here. I got to eat dinner. Good luck to you this week.